Imagine not being Leeds, not feeling this pain, not dancing through thunder, not walking through rain. Imagine not rising with fists in the air when the world turned its back and no one would care. We've lived in the ashes, we've drowned in defeat, but still we stand proud on our battered old feet. Imagine not loving with all that you are. Imagine not being Leeds.
We love you, Leeds, Leeds, Leeds.
We do love you, Leeds. Now then, everybody, I hope everyone's doing okay. Hope the football didn't ruin your weekend or totally ruin it. Hope you've had a good day today. But yeah, thought I'd do a bit of a chat about yesterday's game. 3-0 loss to Brighton at the Amex. Anyone who's seen my match day vlog, I went to it. Me and the missus went 500-mile round trip to watch that. Dross, to be fair, performance-wise, it was below par, unacceptable. They didn't turn up, which as a paying fan, that dedicated me day to watching that tribe. You know, it's a little bit gutting, but I aren't too downbeat, I won't lie. I know as I'm recording this, which it'll change by the time it's uploaded, I'm sure, but West Ham are currently 2-1 up against Newcastle, so I was going to come on here and say, luckily for us, everyone below us has lost this weekend, so it sort of changes how I look at that Brighton result. But yeah, by the time this is done, that could be not the case, and they potentially close the gap. Albeit they're still behind us. I think they're on 7 currently while they're winning. If that stays the way the way it is, that's what they'll end up on. And be 4 points behind us still. We're an 11 in 10, which isn't a bad return. But the cracks are there for people to see. We can talk about Farke not having the right players, the window being poor. We can talk about anything. Whatever your narrative is, you'll use that to your advantage. If you're a Farke lover, some people absolutely adore Farke. That's all you'll say. You'll say that he hasn't got the right players. You've got to give him till January. He can't kick the ball in the net if someone's throwing goal, and I understand that. I am a little bit thick, but not when it comes to that. And if you're not a Farke fan, if you hate him, despise him, like him as a guy, but just don't think he's the right manager, whichever your narrative is in terms of you don't like Farke as the manager of Leeds United, I can also see why too in terms of the results, the points. You can look at it and go, yeah, we're doing okay, we're outside relegation zone, but there's a bigger picture here, as in the games to come. The games to come are very worrying in terms of your Liverpools, your Cities. These huge games. Your Chelsea's. The games where as a fan you look forward to because you're playing the best players in the league. But this current Leeds United squad, I didn't think we'd be having the problems we've had in away games and against the better teams. We've been competitive. We've built a side that's very strong. The midfield three, the majority of the time, have been really good. The defence has been, good in spells, although the goals are starting to mount up to making it like we've got a poor defensive record now, which on paper we have. But, you look at it as a collective and think we're pretty solid. We're competitive in every game here, bar, the bigger teams. The problem is we're playing a lot of big teams soon. So whichever way you want to look at it and wrap it up and, think everything's okay because we sat where we are, the thing with that is, if we don't beat Forest, if we don't beat Villa or get 3 points or 4 points, whatever out of those 2 games, the likelihood is we could go 3, 4, 5, 6 games, losing in a row or not picking up a win in that run. That's where I think the sensible fan that takes the Farke hat off and looks at it and goes, actually, there's a bigger problem here, and it's to come in next few weeks. That game against Brighton, I didn't expect to win. I didn't. But what I'll say is, there's games you don't expect to win. Sunderland going to Chelsea, and I'll bring that up. And there's multiple games, across this season, many other seasons, and we've had them too, going to Liverpool under Marsh and getting a win. Unreal moment. What I'll say is, I don't feel like as a fan, and this is a bit negative of me to say, but I don't feel we are going to win away at Chelsea. I don't think we are going to win at Anfield. I don't think, which is a big term, we're going to go win at Old Trafford. I don't think we're going to do this, get these points in these games. And some will say it doesn't matter because you pick up the wins, around the teams around you. Yeah, and that's fine. We didn't beat Burnley away. There is going to be some games, there's nothing saying we're going to go to London Stadium and beat West Ham next time we play them. There's no saying we're going to beat Wolves at Ellen Road. There's nothing's given, nothing's a definite in this league. But I'm worried about these sort of games against, your Brightons aren't a top 4, top 6 side. They're a very good side, and we just got slapped up 3-0. And I'll be honest with you, it should have been 5 or 6. It should have been 5 or 6. And I think when we play City in, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, that could be 6. I think when we play Liverpool at Anfield, that could be 6. And that's a worry because I didn't see this as a problem, that midfield and defence. I thought, there'll be games we'll get beaten, we'll get well beaten like at Arsenal. But I just had a feeling after the Arsenal result early on, Farke had learned the players were good enough to compete, they were physical enough, they were, 3 DMs, let's be fair, that's what we've got in there. We, Longstaff, Tanaka and Ampadu, or when a stat comes in, it is 3 DMs, in there for me. Very defensive minded, and we're still conceding goals. We're still conceding goals in that midfield. They were running. The gaps were evident yesterday. They were playing with high. The wingers really wide. Minter were just unplayable. Unbelievable player, Minter. He had Gabby Goodmanson on toast for the first 2 goals. Beat him. He literally couldn't touch him. The midfielders of ours weren't tracking the runner into box. All 3 goals have come from cutbacks to a free man in the box, which that shouldn't be happening. Now all of a sudden, not saying it's anyone's fault in particular, but now all of a sudden, does Strout need to come back in? Beale's come in, Perry's come in, we've conceded 4 in 2. All of a sudden, is that a problem? I'm not saying it is, but is that a problem now? Does Tanaka have to come in for Stack? Because that midfield, that was poorest midfield showing I've seen from the combination of all 3. Whichever 3 it is, that's the worst midfield showing I've seen this season. I think it was really weak, really poor. Lack of effort, lack of belief. Like I didn't believe they could win. We had a little spell, I thought, after half time where we looked like we upped the intensity for about 10 or 15 minutes. I think when you've got 3,000 fans doing a 500-mile round trip, I think, they deserve a bit more than what you give, to be fair. And yes, it's a game I didn't think we'd win, so I'm going to harp onto that. I'm not too down for that reason. But, obviously you've got to highlight the parts of the game you're unhappy about. DCL not scoring again is becoming a worry, but again, didn't have a sniff. That's 3 games in a row now. The last 3 games, he's not had an opportunity to miss these big chances that he'd missed earlier on the season. He hasn't had the opportunity, so DCL did DCL things. He's getting up there, he's trying to hold the ball up, he's winning stuff. It was probably one of the toughest games I felt for him, up against Dunk. He's a fucking big lad himself, so it wasn't. I don't feel like DCL bullied the centre halves like he does most weeks. He wins a lot. I felt like this was probably one of his weakest games aerially, just because he went up against some really, really physical and really tall centre halves. I thought Okafor played okay, looked as most likely threat. I think it's very much get the ball to Okafor and hope he can do something at the minute. Very much so. Reminds me, reminiscent of the Somerville times, reminiscent of the Rafinha times. When all else fails, just get the ball out wide to Okafor and hope he can give some magic. That isn't a good enough game plan for me. I thought Aronson were poor. I thought he deserved his start. He was brilliant on Friday night. He deserves to be dropped for Dan James now for the next game. Away at Forest, I think he'll be a good shout. Will James as well. He'll run all day. He's got a goal in him, and I think that needs to be changed. I think Aronson, not been a scapegoat, everyone was shy, but Aronson played really poor yesterday. Lost the ball, weak in contact, lost the ball loads. Like I said, his physicality is an issue. Last week he was brilliant, and this week he was poor. So for me, he deserves to come out. I think Tanaka weren't good yesterday. I thought Ampadu were really poor. I thought Ampadu were awful, to be fair, yesterday. But for me, you can't drop Ampadu for Gruev. So I think there'll be a few. I think there needs to be a few changes for Forest. I think Stack's got to come back in, and I think Dan James has to come back in for Aronson and Tanaka. That's what I'd be doing for that game. If we lost Okafor to a major injury, I'd be really worried, because he is our only bright spark at the minute, which is a shame. I thought Bogle, you don't see him get done very often, but Jorginho, Rutter had him on toast. I thought Rutter were really respectful. You could see sort of the anxiety on him at full time. You see it on my vlog. He's twitching, he's moving about, he's anxious, he wants to come over, but don't know if he can. Got a few boos from sections of the fan base. Wanted to go see the boys, wanted to clap his old fans, and he eventually did. And he got a bit of a mixed reaction, but he got a bit of a decent applause, to be fair, at the end. He didn't celebrate any goals, which I really liked about him. He's a classy individual, as Jorginho, and he showed his class on the pitch too. He had a really good game in spells. and got an assist as well. So, yeah, all in all, I think I can see why people are getting itchy feet again with Farke. I'm not there yet. I don't want to be on the fence, but genuinely at the minute, if I woke up in the morning and Farke was sacked, I wouldn't be upset. If I woke up when I wake up in the morning, he's still here. When I get to Saturday and he's still here for Forest, I'll be fine with it too. I can't give you a better option, so I'm not going to try. I think we're doing okay against the sides we should be doing okay in, bar Burnley, which will that be enough to keep us up? Maybe, but what I'll say is West Ham, I still think are in a false position. Hopefully Newcastle come back and win. They're currently losing 2-1 on Newcastle, but I think West Ham will turn it round. I think West Ham will finish above Leeds. I think it's a shootout between Burnley, Leeds, Forest and Wolves, and I think Wolves are down. So next week becomes a massive game. It's another 6-pointer. Forest have a better squad than us. They have better individuals than us. That's a fact. They have a manager that has been there and done it in this sort of position when he takes over a side in the bottom three who look like they're going nowhere and turns it round, regardless of the football. You know, if they stay up at our expense, we're not what we're going to do. Bemoan that he plays a boring brand of football or he goes long. Who gives a shit? If he keeps Forest up, they keeps him up. So the fact that he's there now and we've got him next week, it's going to be a tough game for us to go there and pick up 3 points. A draw would be great because it means they can't gain on us. But I do think we're quite lucky at the minute. I think we're quite lucky that you've got Wolves, established Premier League side, who are so turgid. It's unbelievable. They could end up with one of the worst points totals in Premier League history for an established club. We've seen people come up, your Derbies, we've seen, your Sheffield United, your Leicester, we've seen sides come up and perform really poor and go back down. Southampton last year. But I don't think we've seen an established Premier League club look as poor as they have, and that's a massive stroke of luck for Leeds United. And the fact that West Ham and Nottingham Forest currently look so poor is again a massive stroke of luck for us. If that turns and changes, which I could see happening, like I say, I think West Ham and Forest could turn it round. They could definitely turn it round and start picking up with results. Then all of a sudden, then what? Us and Burnley and Wolves, we're in that bottom three then. So, yeah, a little bit of luck why we're not in that bottom three for me. I think his performances in games that we've won and picked up points have been brilliant. But outside that, you've got to pick up points away from home, and we're not doing that now. We beat Wolves away. That's our only win away from home, and Wolves are shite, absolutely shite of Wolves. I got a bit carried away with that. Great goal, great assist by Stack, brilliant just to be there in that Wolves game. But when you look at it and strip it back, and we beat West Ham last week, again, another side that is currently below us. We're doing well against a side in and around us, bar Burnley, which is fair enough, but it's got to turn at some point where we've got to pick up results for me against sides we're not expected to. And the people in here who are, really positive, and that's fine. I know we did against Newcastle early in the season. I know we did against Bournemouth and played really well in those games. But ultimately, Fulham away, Burnley away, Arsenal away we got spanked, Brighton away we got spanked. We've got to pick up some points in games away from home that we don't expect to pick points up in. We can make Ellen Road a fortress as much as we want. A fortress isn't undefeated at Ellen Road. That ain't going to happen. A fortress might be, a win, a couple of losses against top sides, a couple of draws, and you get to end the season and you think, we picked up half of his games at home were a win, 3 or 4 were a draw, and then, there's 6 or 7 in there that were losses, and that might be, a tough place to go still, but it's still going to be losses in there. So there has to be wins away from home. There has to be. And currently, I don't know where those wins come, because we've played Wolves away, played Burnley away, Forest away, that's the next one. That's the next one in line, isn't it? It's the next game, it's the next one you look at and go, right, who should we be beating the teams in and around us, whether we should or not, but who should we be able to compete in a game against? Forest, right, it's away from home, let's go there and do the business. The manner of the performance yesterday against Brighton was sickening as a paying fan, but the result was as expected, I won't lie. I said 1-1, that's heart over head. 3-0 loss to Brighton will happen by many sides this season. And the problem is, Brighton aren't in the pomp really at the minute. They're probably going into it now, I'd say. But unfortunately for us, they had 3 wins, 3 draws, 3 losses before we turned up. And we just added to win box, because that's what we do. But something has to change away from home. Farke's got these players till January, if he's still here, obviously. And he's got to get more out of them away from home. We've got to pick up points on the road. We've got to score more goals away from home. Don't let a win at Wolves cloud your judgment, because that away form is very, very poor. But yeah, I'm a bit all over the shop. I've gone sort of through everything, a bit scatty, a bit erratic, but my head's all over the place at a minute. I still believe we can go to Forest and get a result. I think if we go there and even get a point, 12 points in 11, the sides below us, your Wolves, even your Burnleys, who in and amongst it too, they aren't going to win every week. They're not. So if West Ham don't win today, that'd be everyone below us not winning. If they win, they're still a fair bit behind us, but maybe that'll be a catalyst to turn things around for them, which would be a shame for us. But yeah, like I say, we are going to have weeks where we get battered. We are going to have weeks where we do well. We've just got to hope we're better than 3 teams. That's literally the top and bottom of it. We've got to only be better than 3 teams. Currently, we're better than 4, but I do think that'll change. But yeah, like I say, I'm on fence with everything really. I'm on fence with Farke. I'm getting splinters in my arse. I think we've seen enough good games this season to say, we have got something as a collective, as a squad, as a manager. But ultimately, points win prizes, and I am a little bit worried where the points are going to come in this next, 7 or 8 games. So that is a worry, and that will be a worry in back of Farke's mind too, because in this game you can hit a run of fixtures, lose 3 or 4 on bounce, and all of a sudden, from being in a good spot, you're in a bad spot, and you get your P45. So let's hope Forest and Villa are both successful games for Leeds United, and I think 3 points, winning a loss wouldn't be the end of the world. But I think the Forest game has to be a win, and then you go to Welland Road in hope that you can get another one there. But I think if he loses to Forest, it all of a sudden becomes a very toxic place again, if it's not already. But yeah, let me know your thoughts. Let me know, do you think we're in trouble? Are you a Farke in? Are you a Farke out? What do you think about the players' performances? Who needs to come in for the Forest game, or do you keep the team the same? Do you just put it down as a little blemish and it's just one game, or do you think there's a bigger picture going on here? Love to know your thoughts. Do me a solid, please. Please like the video. Please subscribe. Please hype if you can as well. But yeah, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. And if you haven't already and you've stumbled across this, go watch my match day vlog from the Brighton game. Me and the wife went down on the coach. Great day, great crack. Us Leeds fans, we sing, we dance, we love it. The result is, if you let the result, this is what a good friend of mine says, Danny, and he'll watch this, well, my mate Danny Dove. And it's hard, very hard, and I don't always agree with it, but yesterday I did. If you let the result ruin your day, you're not doing it right. I don't always agree with that. Let me know if you do. Take care.